Mystery is the word of the day. Mystery lies behind many plots and stories and games and campaigns and sessions and so on in RPGs. Quite often the mystery is a pretense amongst the people at the table because they've read the background, they know the lore, and so within about 5 minutes at the start of a session they probably have a fairly good idea, if you're someone who sticks to lore, what's going on, who's behind it, what stories you're tapping into, and so on. Unless you've chosen a particularly obscure thing, or you're choosing to interpret it in a different way, or you're using the framework of something to play something else. Right, you could take the premise of Stargate and many of the same moving parts and elements and enemies and so on, and you could remix them into a fairly successful long-running campaign if you wanted to, for example. But mystery is a tricky thing to pull off. You don't want to give people clues too quickly, but you don't want to completely stymie them. We talked about this in some earlier videos in this. So I want to give this a slightly different spin. I think, as an advanced games mastering technique, the best way to preserve mystery in a game is to not really have an idea where it's going yourself as the games master, to have only the vaguest skeleton of an idea of how everything fits together, and then to allow that idea to develop over time and to surprise you as it develops from session to session, because players can be relied upon to draw connections, make accusations, come to conclusions that aren't necessarily the same ones that you intended from the clues and so on that you place into a game. And their ideas are quite often better because, you know, there's 4 to 6 other people typically, and they're going to have good ideas, and they're going to have ideas that catch the imagination of the other players and catch your imagination. So if you follow that down the rabbit hole, if you allow their kind of free associations to guide you and to alter your plans, then that's a good route to follow. I think all the best games masters are improvisational to one extent or another. They're people who can think on their feet, who can create encounters on the fly. This is more difficult in prep-heavy games, but in lighter games and story games it is a hell of a lot easier, though they perhaps lack the mechanical depth that some people get a kick out of. But I think overall you will find your stories to be better, more engaging, the player buy-in is going to be deeper if you take that improvisational slant, if you only have the barest skeleton of an idea of what's going to happen, who's behind what, and leave room for the party, your friends, to fill in the gaps, you'll often have a much more satisfying session and campaign overall. And if you don't know what's going to happen, then the mystery is preserved for everyone.